Fox 11 News at 5, simulcast on our sister station, Fox 11 Plus. I'm Christine Devine.
I'm Alex Michelson. Welcome back, Christine. Good to have you back. We are awaiting President Biden's farewell address to the nation. That could begin at any moment. As soon as it does, we will bring it to you. But before we get to that, an update on our deadly and devastating wildfires here in the LA area.
Residents are worried about the particularly dangerous situation. It's called PDS. That PDS expired just 2 hours ago, but the red flag warning is still in effect in some areas.
Luckily, there has been little to no growth on both the Palisade and Eaton fires. Containment at 19% for the Palisade fire, 45% for Eaton. The death toll stands at 25. More than 130,000 households still without power right now, most turned off on purpose to prevent lines from sparking new fires. Though people are yearning to get back to their homes, there are still significant safety and infrastructure concerns remaining. FEMA has received more than 53,000 applications for help. 100,000 residents were under evacuation orders.
We've been talking about all of the President Biden, is about to address the nation here.
Here is the President of the United States in the Oval Office.
I'm speaking to you tonight from the Oval Office. Before I begin, let me speak to important news from earlier today. After 8 months of nonstop negotiation, by my administration, a ceasefire and a hostage deal has been reached by Israel and Hamas, the elements of which I laid out in great detail in May of this year. This plan was developed and negotiated by my team and will be largely implemented by the incoming administration. That's why I told my team to keep the incoming administration fully informed, because that's how it should be, working together as Americans. This will be my final address to you from the American people from the Oval Office, from this desk as president. And I've been thinking a lot about who we are and who we should be. Long ago in New York Harbor, an iron worker installed beam after beam, day after day. He was joined by steel workers, stonemasons, engineers. They built not just a single structure, but a beacon of freedom. The very idea of America was so big, we felt the entire world needed to see. The Statue of Liberty, a gift from France after our Civil War. Like the very idea of America, it was built not by one person, but by many people, from every background and from around the world. Like America, the Statue of Liberty is not standing still. Her foot literally steps forward atop a broken chain of human bondage. She's on the march, and she literally moves. She was built to sway back and forth to withstand the fury of stormy weather, to stand the test of time because storms are always coming. She sways a few inches, but she never falls into the current below. An engineering marvel. The Statue of Liberty is also an enduring symbol of the soul of our nation. A soul shaped by forces that bring us together and by forces that pull us apart. And yet, through good times and tough times, we've withstood it all. A nation of pioneers and explorers, of dreamers and doers, of ancestors native to this land, of ancestors who came by force, a nation of immigrants who came to build a better life, a nation holding the torch of the most powerful idea ever in the history of the world, that all of us are created equal, that all of us deserve to be treated with dignity, justice, and fairness, that democracy must defend and be defined and be imposed, moved in every way possible. Our rights, our freedoms, our dreams. But we know the idea of America, our institution, our people, our values that uphold it are constantly being tested. Ongoing debates about power and the exercise of power. But whether we lead by the example of our power or the power of our example. Whether we show the courage to stand up to the abuse of power or we yield to it. After 50 years at the center of all of this, I know that believing in the idea of America means respecting the institutions that govern a free society, the presidency, the Congress, the courts, a free and independent press, institutions that are rooted, they just might not reflect the timeless words, but they echo the words of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Rooted in the timeless words of the Constitution, we the people. Our system of separation of powers, checks and balances, it may not be perfect, but it's maintained our democracy for nearly 250 years, longer than any other nation in history that's ever tried such a bold experiment. In the past 4 years, our democracy has held strong. And every day I've kept my commitment to be president for all Americans through one of the toughest periods in our nation's history. I've had a great partner in Vice President Kamala Harris. It's been the honor of my life to see the resilience of essential workers getting us through a once-in-a-century pandemic, the heroism of service members and first responders keeping us safe, the determination of advocates standing up for our rights and our freedoms, instead of losing their jobs to an economic crisis that we inherited. Millions of Americans now have the dignity of work. Millions of entrepreneurs and companies creating new businesses and industries, hiring American workers, using American products. And together, we've launched a new era of American possibilities. One of the greatest modernizations of infrastructure in our entire history, from new roads, bridges, clean water, affordable high-speed internet for every American. We invented the semiconductor, smaller than the tip of my little finger, and now is bringing those chip factories and those jobs back to America where they belong, creating thousands of jobs. Finally, giving Medicare the power to negotiate lower prescription drug prices for millions of seniors. And finally, doing something to protect our children and our families by passing the most significant gun safety law in 30 years and bringing violent crime to a 50-year low, meeting our sacred obligation to over 1 million veterans so far who are exposed to toxic materials, and to their families, providing medical care and education benefits and more for their families. You know, it will take time to feel the full impact of all we've done together. But the seeds are planted, and they'll grow and they'll bloom for decades to come. At home, we've created nearly 17 million new jobs, more than any other single administration in a single term. More people have health care than ever before. And overseas, we've strengthened NATO. Ukraine is still free. And we pulled ahead of our competition with China, and so much more. I'm so proud of how much we've accomplished together for the American people. And I wish the incoming administration success, because I want America to succeed. That's why I've upheld my duty to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition of power, to ensure we lead by the power of our example. I have no doubt that America is in a position to continue to succeed. That's why my farewell address tonight, I want to warn the country of some things that give me great concern. This is a dangerous and that's the dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a very few ultra-wealthy people. And the dangerous consequences if their abuse of power is left unchecked. Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead. We see the consequences all across America, and we've seen it before. More than a century ago, but the American people stood up to the robber barons back then and busted the trusts. They didn't punish the wealthy, just made the wealthy play by the rules everybody else had to. Workers want rights to earn their fair share. You know, they were dealt into the deal, and it helped put us on a path to building the largest middle class, the most prosperous century any nation in the world has ever seen. And we've got to do that again. In the last 4 years, that is exactly what we've done. People should be able to make as much as they can, but play by the same rules. Pay their fair share of taxes. So much is at stake. Right now, the existential threat of climate change has never been clearer. Just look across the country, from California to North Carolina. That's why I signed the most significant climate and clean energy law ever in the history of the world, and the rest of the world is trying to model it now. It's working, creating jobs and industries of the future. Now, we've proven we don't have to choose between protecting the environment and growing the economy. We're doing both. But powerful forces want to wield their unchecked influence to eliminate the steps we've taken to tackle the climate crisis, to serve their own interest for power and profit. We must not be bullied into sacrificing the future of our children and our grandchildren. We must keep pushing forward and push faster. There's no time to waste. It's also clear that American leadership in technology is an unparalleled source of innovation that can transform lives. We see the same dangers of the concentration of technology, power, and wealth. You know, his farewell address, President Eisenhower spoke of the dangers of the military-industrial complex. He warned us then about, and I quote, the potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power, end of quote. 6 decades later, I'm equally concerned about the potential rise of a tech-industrial complex that could pose real dangers for our country as well. Americans are being buried under an avalanche of misinformation and disinformation, enabling the abuse of power. The free press is crumbling. Editors are disappearing. Social media is giving up on fact-checking. The truth is smothered by lies told for power and for profit. We must hold the social platforms accountable to protect our children, our families, and our very democracy from the abuse of power. Meanwhile, artificial intelligence is the most consequential technology of our time, perhaps of all time. Nothing offers more profound possibilities and risk for our economy and our security, our society, for humanity. Artificial intelligence even has the potential to help us answer my call to end cancer as we know it. But unless safeguards are in place, AI could spawn new threats to our rights, our way of life, to our privacy, how we work and how we protect our nation. We must make sure AI is safe and trustworthy and good for all humankind. In the age of AI, it's more important than ever that the people must govern. And as the land of liberty, America, not China, must lead the world in the development of AI. You know, in the years ahead, it's going to be up to the president, the presidency, the Congress, the courts, the free press, and the American people to confront these powerful forces. We must reform the tax code, not by giving the biggest tax cuts to billionaires, but by making them begin to pay their fair share. We need to get dark money. That's that hidden funding behind too many campaigns contributions. We need to get it out of our politics. We need to enact an 18-year time limit, time and term, for the strongest ethics reforms for our Supreme Court. We need to ban members of Congress from trading stock while they're in the Congress. We need to amend the Constitution to make clear that no president is immune from crimes that he or she commits while in office. The president's power is not limited. It's not absolute, and it shouldn't be. And in a democracy, there's another danger to the concentration of power and wealth. It erodes a sense of unity and common purpose. It causes distrust and division. Participating in our democracy becomes exhausting and even disillusioning. And people don't feel like they have a fair shot. We have to stay engaged in the process. I know it's frustrating. A fair shot is what makes America, America. Everyone's entitled to a fair shot. Not a guarantee, but just a fair shot. An even playing field. Going as far as your hard work and talent can take you. We can never lose that essential truth, remain who we are. I've always believed, and I've told other world leaders, America can be defined by one word: possibilities. Only in America do we believe anything is possible. Like a kid with a stutter from modest beginnings in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claremont, Delaware, sitting behind this desk in the Oval Office as President of the United States. That's the magic of America. It's all around us. Upstairs in the residence of the White House, I've walked by a painting of the Statue of Liberty I don't know how many times. In the painting, there are several workers climbing on the outstretched arm of the statue that holds the torch. It reminds me every day I pass it of the story and soul of our nation and the power of the American people. There's a story of a veteran. This is a veteran, the son of an immigrant, whose job was to climb that torch and polish the amber panes so rays of light could reach out as far as possible. He was known as the keeper of the flame. He once said of the Statue of Liberty, quote, "speaks a silent universal language, one of hope that anyone who seeks and speaks freedom can understand." Yes, we sway back and forth to withstand the fury of the storm, to stand the test of time. A constant struggle, a short distance between peril and possibility. But what I believe is the America of our dreams is always closer than we think. And it's up to us to make our dreams come true. Let me close by stating my gratitude to so many people, to the members of my administration, as well as public service and first responders across the country and around the world. Thank you for stepping up to serve. To our service members and your families, it's been the highest honor of my life to lead you as Commander-in-Chief. And of course to Kamala and our incredible partner, the historic Vice President. She and Doug have become like family, and to me, family's everything. My deepest appreciation to our amazing First Lady who's with me in the Oval today, for our entire family. You're the love of my life and the lives of my love. My eternal thanks to you, the American people. After 50 years of public service, I give you my word. I still believe in the idea for which this nation stands. A nation where the strengths of our institutions and the character of our people matter and must endure. Now it's your turn to stand guard. May you all be the keeper of the flame. May you keep the faith. I love America. You love it too. God bless you all. And may God protect our troops. Thank you for this great honor.
There you have President Biden with his farewell speech, his last speech to America in the Oval Office, where he started out with the major breaking news of the day, the ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. He then went on to thank Vice President Kamala Harris, calling her a great partner, cited the once-in-a-century pandemic, then also went on to talk about some of the accomplishments in the Biden administration, then also to talk about basically democracy in America and what that means with the next administration, not directly ever mentioning, though, President Trump.
He comes into this speech with a low approval rating of 36%, and after 50 years of doing this, he doesn't have a whole lot to lose. And I was struck by how he went after what he called the tech industrial complex, warning about an oligarchy taking shape. Yeah. Seemed like some of what he was talking about was intended to talk about Elon Musk, who just spent $200 million on this election and is now with Donald Trump seemingly every day helping to shape policy, and talking about how social media and how the discourse in America and the lack of truth, a lot of stuff that Biden has not really got into in that way before. I guess at this point you can kind of say what you want to say, but it was striking that this was not just a kumbaya speech. He clearly had something that he wanted to get off of his chest after everything that has happened to him. But, you know, he leaves office without a huge base of support. And he ran in large part to make sure that Donald Trump would not be president. And now he leaves office with Donald Trump coming in to be president again.
He says he still believes in the ideas and ideals of America and says it's your turn to stand guard and to be the keeper of the flame. He also thanked First Lady Jill Biden for her love as well.
It's going to be interesting. We're heading to Washington tomorrow for inauguration coverage. So we'll be there in D.C. talking to Democrats and Republicans about what happens next from the administration, from Congress. And we'll have some of that coverage starting tomorrow night at 10 here on Fox 11. But what a time. In the meantime, let's get to the big story that we've been following. And big story we're going to be talking about in Washington, which is funding for all this, our wildfire coverage. Crews in both Altadena and Palisades are making progress knocking down both of the fires. In Pacific Palisades tonight, the search for what sparked the fire continues, as does the recovery effort. There's also concerns about potential landslides going forward.
Let's go live to Fox 11's Matthew Seedorf. He's been covering this fire for over a week now. Matthew, to you.
Yeah, crews out here today making big progress in the cleanup. Just look at the base of this tree, just burnt to the core. And then if you flip it this direction, you can see where crews were out here today cutting down logs, fixing gas lines and power lines, trying to get people back to their homes as soon as possible. A race to restore order in the heavily burned Pacific Palisades. Power and gas crews working overtime in a frenzy, trying to get utilities back and running.
We're doing the best we can and trying to get them back up, you know, fixing everything and trying to make it safe again.
How's it going? Just Fox 11. Only news media and first responders allowed into the burn zone, with police on constant patrol for looters. The National Guard setting up a large camp on PCH, complete with mobile shelters.
This is the best place in LA, and then suddenly this.
Jason McKyle works security for several homeowners in Malibu.
Because the hill came down, and then suddenly, Saturday morning.
This house nearby split in half by a landslide. Thousands across the area decimated, now charred piles of rubble.
Yesterday I got sick. I was so painful, I started throwing up. I was hurt. I mean, we worked so hard.
And now the painful process of looking for human remains. This is something officials want to finish before people can start moving back in.
There's some teams that are going through this small community and trying to see what they can find.
ATF and arson investigators near Skull Rock combing for clues.
And they systematically go to an area and pinpoint where the origin and cause of that fire is.
Another fire New Year's morning in the same general area, part of the investigation, as well as more than 150 tips recently called in.
We're not going to leave any stone unturned. We have the best of the best up there investigating the origin and cause of this fire.
Crews from CAL FIRE and Caltrans clearing brush in Santa Monica along the Pacific Coast Highway, making defensible space close to the Palisades fire burn zone. A lot of people anxious to get back to their homes, but so far no timeline has been given. Reporting live tonight, Matthew Seedorf, Fox 11 News.
All right, Matthew, thanks for the update there. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass and actor Sean Penn visiting the Disaster Recovery Center at UCLA Research Park West.
It's the second day the center has been open. Fire victims are encouraged to go there to seek help.
I had one woman who came up to me yesterday and today. She'd lived in Malibu for 40 years. She lost her home. She's living with her daughter. But today, she is volunteering.
There's an awful lot of compassionate people in there who really enjoy being able to help these people coming in. And so we know we have a very long recovery here. And I think you'll be seeing a lot of us for some time to come.
If you need help, we have a list of resources on our website. That's foxla.com/fireaid.
Some diplomatic efforts are finally bearing fruit. A long-awaited ceasefire deal announced today between Israel and Hamas. Celebrations erupting across the Mideast upon word that Israel and Hamas have agreed to a 42-day ceasefire and hostage release starting on Sunday. During the next 6 weeks, Israeli forces will withdraw from all populated areas of Gaza, and residents will be allowed to return to their neighborhoods. Hamas will release a number of women, elderly, and wounded hostages in phase 1 of the ceasefire. President Biden taking credit for the deal.
This is the ceasefire agreement I introduced last spring. Today, Hamas and Israel have agreed to that ceasefire agreement. This is one of the toughest negotiations I've ever experienced. And we reached this point because of the pressure that Israel built on Hamas, backed by the United States.
Biden crediting Qatar and Egypt with aiding in the negotiations. The agreement will also surge humanitarian assistance to Palestinians in Gaza. All negotiators are hopeful this will result in a permanent end to that 15-month-long war. Big deal.
Back to our fires. Agencies and volunteers from across the country continue to gather in Southern California. One of the major hubs is the Community Education Center in Pasadena, located off Foothill Boulevard. That is where L.A. County just officially launched their new location assistance program to help displaced people.
Austin Westfall has been out there over the past couple days. Austin, what's it like today?
It was busier today than it was yesterday. State, federal, local agencies all using this place as a hub in order to help people like this.
And I found that I'm disabled. My kidneys are dead already, so I'm dialysis 3 days a week. Going from there to losing everything.
Just 3 weeks after his mom took him into her Altadena home due to a health scare, Alfonso Soriano lost it all. He shared this video of he and his mom's charred home. His disability does not allow him to work, and he's now lost everything.
We left the house with what's on our back, and that's it. We didn't take anything with us.
That's where this disaster relief center comes in. Agencies supporting people who've lost anything from a home all the way to smaller things that you might not think about.
I didn't have my driving license any longer, so I've got that now, so I can drive.
The DMV is in there.
Yes, and so efficient.
Every victim I spoke to says that they were satisfied with the help that they got here today. Soriano says they're replacing his mom's deed, and now he's staying with his dad. FEMA is temporarily giving his dad $1,800 a month for housing him.
We're going to get a voucher to replace all the money we spent for motel rooms and things of that nature.
Not everyone here lost their home. Stephen Taylor's is safe, but he can't get back into his neighborhood. Although his house is intact, he knows that his community is not.
God bless Altadena. Thank you.
And this is the Pasadena City College Communications Center. It's off Foothill Boulevard. This is not the PCC main campus. The address is 3035 East Foothill Boulevard. It's open 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily for the foreseeable future. Coming up at 6, we're going to be speaking about the county's efforts to help folks who've lost their jobs amid the fires. Back to you guys.
We'll see you then. Austin Westfall, thank you. Join Fox's support of families impacted by the California wildfires. Your donation enables the Red Cross to help people. Go to go.fox/Red Cross to support these efforts, or you can scan the QR code on your screen.
More than 100 people have been arrested in fire-related crimes.
And law enforcement isn't backing down to find those behind the flames and taking advantage of victims. That is next.
I'm Adam Kruger, and of course, we'll have your forecast coming up soon as the wind advisories and red flag warnings come to an end. But first, this traffic report from Morgan & Morgan. As we come in a little bit closer, we can see a wreck near downtown and a lot of red on the main highways. Now a look at some other traffic hotspots.